One, two, three, in the place to be. It's your player partners from the bottom of the map.
The bottom of the map.
It's your dog Israel.
Hayes.
And once again, before we jump in, go ahead and like, subscribe, share, add your 2 cents in, jump in them comments. We will jump in with you, engage, interact, socialize, and all that. This video, man, wanted to talk about, you know, all the podcasts and all the shows, they just hungry. This is the dead period. So everybody's just thirsty for a story. And the big thing right now, everybody, every 5 minutes, they're just refreshing the transfer portal, right? We've had a lot of speculation, and that's all it is right now until a quarterback, makes an official statement, or not a quarterback, players official statements about what schools they're going to transfer to. Miami is one of the schools that's been in the headlines because they're in search of a quarterback. I know Cam Ward's name has come up. You like Will Rogers.
Willie boy, Willie.
Um, and there's actually, there's so many quarterbacks in the portal. We think that we get a quarterback. That's the main thing we're going to target. I'm pretty sure we're going to target other things, but if we get a quarterback, we could be a contender at least. We should be able to be a quality team. I feel like personally, we do not need a quarterback in the portal. I think the portal quarterback shit is fool's gold. Now, I'm taking it from the standpoint of everybody keeps saying we are in a rebuild, not a team that's ready made to compete right now, and all they need is a quarterback to plug and play. And I feel like we have the talent to plug and play, but everybody else is talking we in this 5 6 year rebuild shit, right? So from that standpoint, I'm like, why do we need a transfer portal quarterback who's going to have 1 maybe 2 years of eligibility if we're in a rebuild? To me, that doesn't make any sense when you have quarterbacks on a roster that you could just develop through the rebuild. While you're rebuilding, you could be, developing their skills and they're growing with if Shannon Dawson is going to stay as the offensive coordinator, you're going to have somebody that's going to be in your system for years. So by the time, Emory Williams is a junior, he'll be a master of that system. He'll know that system in and out. His junior year, that's 2 more years from now. That rebuild, that 4 or 5 year, we should be in the 5th year of a rebuild. The rebuild should be done. The process should be over. Everything should be in play. We should have what we need. And go getting a quarterback that may, come for 1 year, unless he's a quarterback that's real familiar with this system and the style of play, that may not help us at all. Case in point, De'Aaron King. Now I know De'Aaron King isn't a part of this regime. All right, he wasn't a part of this group. But when De'Aaron King came from Houston, we thought De'Aaron King was going to come to Miami, being that he put up great numbers at Houston, and he was going to come to Miami and do the same things. Now, when he was at Houston, uh, his junior year before he got hurt his senior year before he transferred. His junior year, he threw 36 touchdowns with 6 interceptions, and he had almost 3,000 yards passing. All right, we're just like, damn. That bring that to Miami. He's not in this. You wouldn't necessarily call him a dual threat quarterback, but he was a dual threat. All right, he didn't rush for a ton of yards, but he did. Was a dual threat, and he was decent. He wasn't great, but he didn't make Miami a real threat. He gave us what I would like to call stability and just feeling comfortable knowing that somebody could play the quarterback position. That's all I felt that he did. I felt comfortable that he could go out there and make plays. He was a baller because he balled at Houston. All right. He comes to Miami, does decent. Those 2,600 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Next year, he gets hurt. Game number 4, TVD comes in and goes ham. TVD goes crazy. All right. TVD goes crazy. TVD wasn't even expected to play. TVD goes so crazy in 4, and he comes in game 4 and he wins ACC Rookie of the Year. He goes so crazy. He goes into the next year with Heisman hype. Now that was with Rhett Lashley. All right. Rhett Lashley leaves. We get Gaddis. The offense changes completely. And then TVD looks like a shell of himself. The next year, we get Shannon Dawson, another OC, and TVD looks more of a shell of himself. Now, my thing is, we talk about a whole lot. We talk about this offline a lot.
He looked good at first. To be fair, but he looked good at first. He looked damn great at
He
first.
looked great at first, but then the struggles came. But we talk about development, right, and how important OCs are, especially at the college football level. OCs are important. Imagine if he would have had Rhett Lashley the second year and this year.
Man.
What type of numbers TVD? What type of quarterback we would perceive him to be, sticking with
Oh,
the same offensive? And then Rhett Lashley goes to SMU. He goes back to SMU as the head coach, and SMU is just putting up all kinds of numbers, right? So my thing is development and stability in your coaching staff means more than just catching a hot quarterback. And let me add one more. Let me add one more point in before I know you got a rebuttal for this. I'm gonna name off. These are all the transfer portal. I feel like I can't say that word. Transfer portal quarterbacks from this past year. All big names that was supposed to, when they switched to these teams were supposed to be forever changed. Sam Hartman, this is suspect number one. Sam Hartman came from Wake Forest and what I call is a gimmicky ass offense and put up all kinds of numbers. He played for 4 years, 4 year starter, 4 year starter. He goes to Notre Dame. Now he's at Notre Dame. He's with a national brand. These boys supposed to be in the college football playoffs. Mediocre year. Devin Leary transfers from North Carolina State to Kentucky, mediocre. Brennan Armstrong transfers from Virginia to North Carolina State, doesn't see the field. One person who was decent, DJ Uyunglele. He played, he wasn't to Clemson standard, went to Oregon State, had them, had them playing decent. Peyton Thorne went from Michigan State to Auburn. We know Auburn, their quarterback struggles all year. Them boys have no kind of quarterback play. Jeff Sims. Jeff Sims was a kind of a dual threat quarterback at Georgia Tech, went to Nebraska, ain't do shit there. Cade McNamara he was at Michigan, was supposed to be the next coming at Michigan. Transferred from Michigan to Iowa. We know them boys who can only score on defense. Can't score on offense. Emory Jones. Emory Jones was another transfer from Florida. He transferred from Florida to Arizona State to Cincinnati. Ain't do shit there. Um, Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz transferred from Wisconsin to Florida, and we talked shit about him in the earlier part of the year, but he played decent. Had a pretty good year. Hey, you guys remember Jake Garcia? Remember we loved Jake Garcia? We was like, oh, well, if there's any problems with TVD, we got Jake Garcia. Jake Garcia transferred from to Missouri and ain't see no field action. None. Um, and the list kind of goes on. Um, one quarterback I would say, oh, Drew Pine, Notre Dame. He's starting at Notre Dame. They got Tyler Buckner, who's a backup but gets some playing time. Drew Pine transferred from Notre Dame to Arizona State. Don't do shit. Speaking of Tyler Buckner was at Notre Dame, was all but given the quarterback position at Alabama. They was begging this nigga. They was begging his ass to please. Jalen Milroe is playing horribly. Please take the reins at Alabama. Please. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Brought Jalen Milroe back in. Rest is history. I mean, these are your transfer your transfer portal quarterbacks. Now, who's to say that all these quarterbacks that transfer from this school to that school to this school, and we get a quarterback and he don't do nothing. He underperforms, and instead of developing what we have in the background, we just are all depending on this guy from another school to come in and save the program. Now we got our quarterback. If you don't develop that player, or if that player can't come right in right away and produce, what's the point? Because once that person leaves, let's say you only got 1 year. Once he leaves, then you're back at square one all over again, all over again. And unless you're going to say, well, we're going to bring that person in 1 year, and our other quarterbacks, we're just going to let them sit and watch, and we're going to develop in the background. But like we said in the past, when have we known Mario to develop any quarterback? That's my issue. That's my thing about everybody just clamoring and salivating. Go, oh, we're gonna get this person. Oh, we're gonna get that person. Oh, we finally gonna have a quarterback. Well, didn't we have TVD? Didn't TVD coming into his second year? Didn't he have a Heisman campaign behind him? If we already had, with potentially with development and an OC, a elite quarterback, what the hell are we going to go get another one for? We already had that. We already had the elite quarterback. And the only way this could either be proven or disproven, if TVD goes to another school and ball out, it just shows that Miami's process is stupid. Their thought process is dumb. Now, if he goes to somewhere else and he flames out and you never hear of him again, all right, you got a point. But if he goes to another place and he has a Bo Nix type of resurgence, I don't want to hear shit about none what y'all talking about. Oh, is the poor? Oh, man, I don't hear none of that shit because we had the elite quarterback. Y'all can say, oh, he was playing bad. Listen, under Rhett Lashley, that boy was looking like Heisman front runner, first round draft pick. All right, he was looking like he was him. This year, he had some spots where he was back to looking like he might be him.
Straight up. That's what
So
he did.
why go get? Let's say we get a. Let's say we want everybody want Cam Ward. All right, he's another a transfer because he was at Houston first. Then he transferred to Washington State. Then he'd be another transfer. All right, so let's say he comes in and he plays so. All right, he don't play great, but he don't play bad. What are we doing then? Are we saying, well, let's give Emory Williams a chance? Let's like, all right, you look, fuck all that. Fuck all them quarterbacks. If you Mario, I already know what you're gonna say. I already know what you're gonna say about his recruiting talents. All right, fuck all that. If you was a big time coach, we know you got Alabama in your blood, you got Oregon, you got what it was FIU, you got some Miami in you. You know, if you got top notch coaching pedigree in you, develop. I'm actually on that. I'm with Dabo and Bob Stoops on this. Fuck that portal. Fuck that portal outside of getting defensive line or every other position except for quarterback. Fuck that portal. Develop what you got. Shannon Dawson, if you like that, if you can't even be Mark Whipple, if you can't be Jed Fish, if you can't be Dan Enos, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear nothing. I'm tired of y'all fans. Y'all act like we didn't have raw ass, like we didn't have Rhett Lashley was that guy. And TVD looked like he was that guy under that guy. And Shannon Dawson got a lot to do with this. And he got to be a man and be like, hey, Mario, you got to get off me. I got to be able to do what I do. Now, if we get a transfer portal quarterback and he comes in and balls the fuck out, then I'll shut up. Outside of that, I don't want to hear none of that shit. And that 4 or 5 year rebuild shit, that shit don't even make sense. Because if I'm gonna rebuild, that means I need to develop. Develop what you have. If I'm not developing and I'm just trying to plug and play, then every 1 or 2 years we're gonna be back in rebuild status. That doesn't make any sense to me. Don't make no sense to me. Don't make no sense. But I know you got something to say, so make it make sense to me. Because it don't make no sense to me. Make it make sense.
You brought up a lot of good points. You know what I'm saying? On one hand, it's look, Emory Williams looked good. Let's go ahead and say that. We did basically. He looked better than Florida State, right? The rest of our quarterbacks look better than what Florida State has right now. Just what we got, which we haven't seen Ja'Cory Brown, but we are about to see that, right? Because he was about to transfer. We begged him to stay.
We seen him last year though. He not like he never seen the field before. We have seen him before.
He ain't seen like no whole two. We haven't we seen Emory Williams for 2 games, right? And we saw some rookie things and we saw some great things. So I do agree that when we think about Bo Nix was garbage at Auburn, right? Goes to Oregon and he's not raw, but he develops. But I'm starting to realize that a lot of these, head coaches have competent OCs, or they were OC. We're really starting to understand that Rhett Lashlee, which I always want to say I knew, Rhett Lashlee raw as hell. SMU is so raw. If Miami played SMU would beat us, and they probably beat us good, all offense. You know what I'm saying? And we already know Rhett Lashlee was doing this when TBD didn't even have a line. We couldn't run the ball, so we know we didn't have no O-line. So I don't even know. But either TBD is that good or Rhett Lashlee is God. And I'm starting to think that Rhett Lashlee is God and that we need to make offerings to the football God because that's what we need. We'll never know what Shannon Dawson is because we're starting to realize that, you know what? Mario don't develop talent. He can. And I say he can based on the fact that tomorrow is a new day. But so far, no. When he was at Oregon, Justin Herbert is playing way better in the NFL than what he ever played there. You know what I'm saying? When we look at the numbers and we're looking at somebody who at that time he was a future first rounder, but he necessarily didn't get better. It's not like he got, you know what I'm saying? Like he was already an elite talent, highly heralded. The only thing I have to say is you got a lot of compelling points. Like you could be right. We don't know. But what we do know is this. We have a head coach who doesn't have a history of developing offense. He does not develop quarterbacks. He does develop O linemen and D linemen, right? We watched, first round picks in that department, and we watch people get better. Although I do want to point out that the previous staff under Manny developed Russo and Phillips, right? I mentioned that Russo was a diamond, ends up going first round, and not just intangibles. That boy be balling. Same thing with Phillips, had his best time. So what I can say is that Manny, as a defense, did develop those. You know what I'm saying? And he was great in picking Rhett Lashlee. Like obviously, you know what I'm saying. Shout out to Manny too. He's going to be at Duke, so we actually want to have some type of composite plan. As much as I like to talk about Mario. One thing about Mario, and this is what he's known for, Mario can recruit. Like them boys say, I can serve cocaine. Well, Mario can recruit. That's what he's good at. That's his strength. As a coach, I have to allow him to not only recruit O linemen and D linemen, but he can sell everything but the kitchen sink. So the only reason I'm in favor of the portal is because at the end of the day, I don't want to take away my coach's best attribute. Like that's what he's elite in. We talk about that 2014 Alabama team where they got Kirby at defense. They got Mel Tucker at defensive back. They got Lane Kiffin as the OC. Who do you have on the O-line? Mario. But more than that, you start to look at those players, the Mari Coopers and those Florida, we gotta look back at it and say, no, that was Mario getting them boys. So, and I get it. Every other podcast, they're going toward that because that's all they really have. They know that at the end of the day, Mario is gonna get the fan base excited because he's gonna get the players. But here's the thing. There's no guarantee, as you stated, that we get a raw transfer quarterback. But there's also no guarantee that we develop players. We have to recruit, though. We have to do all three. We're going to have to continue to let Shannon Dawson work with what he got, and he may not be the truth, right? We don't know if he's going to be here 2 more years. He may end up getting fired because if we have another bad season, Mario's looking like, well, I'm not trying to get fired, so I'm going to fire y'all before I go. So because we don't know that, we got to invest in all three. We got to get a good quarterback, and we can't get a quarterback. We can't get a quarterback from the portal that has to develop. The reason I like Will Rogers is I know he can make the throw. And if he can make the throws, well, then at least Shannon Dawson has somebody that he doesn't necessarily have to develop a whole bunch. But I don't have faith, and I don't think anybody can say that our coaching staff is going to be able to develop certain players. I just don't see that. Outside of the O-line and the D-line, I think we got to get a transfer quarterback, but I also think that the quarterbacks that we have in this upcoming class, we've got to be able to develop them. And that's really all we have. You know what I'm saying? When I look at it, it's like at the end of the day, I think we got to hit on a quarterback because if not, No one even knows, is Emory going to be able to come back from an injury like this and be the same player? We got a true freshman, and then we got Ja'Cory Brown, and he already feels some type of way because he was already passed over. So let's just say he wasn't getting developed. Okay, I just look at this like, look, at the end of the day, we do got to get a good, but there's no guarantee. You're exactly right. We can go in here and they're going to evaluate talent. But is it going to be Shannon Dawson getting somebody, or is it going to be Mario in charge? Mario is going to get them to come. So at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think Shannon Dawson is going to – I think Shannon Dawson will have input, but ultimately it's Mario. And because of that, yes, you go in there and get a Cam Warden. I don't know about that. But when we take a look at Michael Penix, we look at, their coach won coach of the year. Why? Because that's a coaching staff that develops talent. You know what I'm saying? When we take a look at, even Jordan Travis, I have to say that, as I said earlier, we don't think Florida State can develop talent, but we think that they're great talent evaluators. And I do think Mario is an elite talent evaluator. So I think you find somebody who can plug and play, but I think in the background, you kind of got to do what you said as well. You've got to be able to develop, because ultimately we're never great if we can't develop. But I don't have any faith in developing. I think that at the end of the day, the road for UM to get better under this regime, minus us winning the championship, is to out-recruit everybody else. Not necessarily develop the talent. I would love that. But I'm not here to think about things that I hope for. I'm not here like other podcasts and say, no, he's never done it. He's probably not going to do it. But we can't take the recruiting away, because that's his best attribute. He got to recruit. He got to get the best people, because that's the only way we going to compete. And we also, if we do that, though, sooner or later, we're going to get lucky. Sooner or later, we're going to get lucky. Think about it. We got another heralded freshman. We're recruiting another. We may get 2 quarterbacks in this class, and we hit the transfer portal. So we have 4 or 5. And on top of that, somebody's going to transfer out next year anyway. So I think that at the end of the day, you got valid points. You're right. If we don't develop people, then you know what? That's not a good look. But I do think that Mario did recruit. I'm not sure if he recruited Justin Herbert or Willie Taggart recruited Justin Herbert. Don't really matter. At the end of the day, Mario is an elite recruiter. That is his best attribute. That is what he can do. And I felt like at the end of the day, we're going to get lucky. We're going to hit the portal, and we're going to come up on luck. If not this year, think about it. We still got Emory Williams for insurance, and we still got true freshmen. So at the end of the day, as long as we've got 3 quarterbacks to cycle through, then we're going to be better. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. Florida State was in a position to where their quarterback went down. Because let's just say we get this elite transfer. What happens if he gets hurt? This is football. Shit happens. Out for the season. Then we at least know that we know that Emory Williams, as long as he doesn't regress like TD, then he's going to, get better. But one thing I'll say about TVD is it's all about your OC. You've really, like Rhett Lashlee, as we see now, Rhett Lashlee, not only – you know what? TVD was not heralded. So let's just say Rhett Lashlee is developing talent. Matter of fact, SMU didn't have their lead quarterback in their bowl game. Their backup quarterback looked damn good, okay? A little bit of a dual threat. He made good decisions. And so I just think it's at the end of the day, you're right. Ultimately, to be great, you're going to have to develop the players. Why do we like Milroe? Because Saban and them saw they didn't have anything else, and they were forced to develop. And sometimes I think sometimes a coaching staff, because think about it. What if they would have had a better quarterback, and then he went down, and it's the middle of the season. They don't get the chance to develop him, but they've been able to. That loss was.
Let me say something about that. Even that development came as the season progressed. Like he developed as the season progressed, and this is one thing I want Miami fans to understand. If you look at college football, right, you can catch lightning in a bottle here or there, right? Joe Burrow is more of an anomaly than a
transfer quarterback too, though.
That's what I'm saying. He's a transfer. That 1 year he came in LSU, but they also had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. They had the perfect storm, right? They had the perfect mix for a quarterback to come in 1 year, but he also, I would consider, a generational talent. He wasn't just your run of the mill. But then you had a team like Georgia that had Stetson Bennett, right? Walk on. Developed, though. Justin Fields had to leave. They had other quarterbacks that had to leave because he had developed and grasped the offense so much and was able. He reminded me of Ken Dorsey in the way that he was able to operate in that offense, right? You don't think about him as NFL talent, but in that offense, he has such understanding of like the playbook and the offense on the field that he had just excelled. That was development, and they won national championships.
As
I'm gonna
Bobo,
go back further with Alabama, right? They had Jalen Hurts and Tua. They had two quarterbacks that one was sitting in the background who they still had to develop, while one, even Jalen Hurts, that basically had to transfer. He was supplanted. Jalen Hurts played well.
he
He
did.
played well. And even went to Oklahoma, he played well. But Tua played, now you have national championship Heisman Trophy. All right. So now you have development further. Miami isn't any different in that sense. You either going to Stetson Bennett, Tua sitting in the background. Have a Tua sitting in the background who I just need to get him enough game reps so when he get on the field, he can take over right away. He can take over, or you're gonna catch lightning in the bottle with Joe Burrow, or you might happen to fall on a Trevor Lawrence. That's just going to be he's going to be like there's nothing that's going to stop him from putting up the numbers in college because he's just that much better than everybody else.
I do want to point out though that those years, even when Joe Burrow was there, they had Brady. I think his name is Joe Brady, OC.
Yeah,
Um, just phenomenal. The one thing that looks bad for us is that when you look at some of Shannon Dawson's play calling, not only did the shit suck, it would be like redundant. Like I
yeah,
and,
very redundant. And
and
it didn't take advantage of the skill set of the players. I'm
that
sorry. Kobe Young at 6'4", 220 is not the player you want to keep running tunnel screens to. Those for more of your smaller, shiftier guys. He's more of your outside deeper. You're throwing a lot of the high point balls to. You're getting a lot of fades to. That should be going to Jacoby George, Bashard Smith, and Restrepo is your possession receiver. But like not using the talent and not playing to their strengths. And it's just like if you don't do that, then as an offensive coordinator for your quarterback, and which I think Rhett Lashley did very well because, like I said, we chronicled it. Miami had a lot of their receivers dropped a lot of drop passes. But Charleston Rambo, you're guaranteed 2 or 3 times a game, they're gonna go deep. And you're gonna catch Rooster out the backfield for wheel routes that'll go for long yardage. Our tight end play was
with no
was
offensive
extremely
line,
well.
offensive line, just running so you can
No
pass.
offensive line. No offensive line. But our tight ends, Brevin Jordan, Will Mallory. So like using all the weapons are all at your disposal to benefit the play of your quarterback. If we get a quarterback and they still aren't using the weapons to benefit, it's still just not gonna look good. It's not gonna look good.
I think that point right there, it doesn't matter. Here's the thing, right? It's not even that it was just redundant. It's like we're looking at the TV and we're like, why is he going back to the same play three
Three, four,
times in a row?
three
No, no,
times
no,
in a
no.
row.
Like that. And so I'm like, is that Dawson or is that him operating because he know that what Mario wants? Because when I look at a lot of the vanilla play calling, it's like, okay, our fans, they like, and here's the thing about fans. I'm like, you guys don't see Rhett Lashley with no line. We remember night and catching wheel routes because we're running for no yards. And I think people are like, oh, we need to run. He's only running so he can pass. But the play calling is elite. Like you said, the angles that he's going to. He got shifts, then he's going to the tight end. Then he's not running the same play 3 times. When I look at stuff like that, I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter who you have. If we're going to get an OC that's going to run the same play 3 times and he feels like he has to because that's what Mario wants, it doesn't matter transfer quarterback. It doesn't matter Emory Williams. This is not competent. And so I have to ask myself, though, if you're a disciple of the air raid, if me and you go right now and we take a class in air raid, we're at least going to be able to mix up play calling. And the fans that know common sense, it should be to the point where coaches that are making millions of dollars, they should at least be like, no one's saying that you have to be Rhett Lashley, but some of the things Rhett Lashley was doing was like common sense. I'm not going to run the same play 3 times. I'm actually going to use the tight ends because I need to mix everything up. And it's like when we looked at the play calling, it was like, yo, I understand they won at the beginning of the season when teams weren't good, but they weren't using the tight ends or they weren't using wheel routes. And it's like, okay, You know what? You don't. You know what I'm saying? It's very frustrating because I don't think people understand. You can get the greatest quarterbacks that you want. If you don't know how to call plays, it's simple stuff. Just listen. Let's get the ball out quick. Let's go to the tight end. Let's run a rail route. Let's mix up the play calling. You can't do it every now and then when it's just that simple. But I don't know. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, when you get assistant coaches that come from smaller schools, you want to question them. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, okay, we know air raid. We know what Mike Leach was doing. Mississippi State wasn't winning games, but why do I want Will Rogers? Because I know he can make all the throws. So then I know if he gets to Shannon Dawson and he doesn't do good, then I know it's not only the OC, it's Mario. Because there's no way that as a head coach, you get different OCs and you try to control them. And you get an air raid at that. And why did you get an air raid? Because you tried to do something different that didn't play to the strengths of TVD, and then he gave us nothing. So I just think it's one of those things where at the end of the day, no matter what we decide, all of the successful quarterbacks that hit the transfer portal that did well had competent coaching. And I think that that's why coaching is always going to be the Achilles heel. But at the end of the day, I'm like you. I'm like, well, we don't have another choice because our coach, the only thing that he can do well is get elite talent. But and we can't prove this, right? Like there's a lot of podcasts who say, well, Shannon Dawson is doing it. If you're a disciple of air raid is using every weapon at your disposal. It's not running the same play 2 or 3 times unless they can't stop it. But late in games, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? And I just think player development. At the end of the day, we may not say a lot of things, and you know me, I try not to be hard, but when I watch Louisville that can't move the ball on Florida State, but then I watch them put 38 points on us, when we get back to the defensive side of the ball, at the end of the day, it's going to be player development. But I can't put my faith in that. The only thing I can do is say, hey, can we get a Justin Herbert? Can we get a dude so good that he'll change the play at the line and not run what Shannon and Mario want and then make the throw that he sees is open? That's ultimately the only way. That's the only way that UM is going to be able to be elite is if we just get somebody who he's got such command of the offense, he can change the line. Which, I mean, and I know, and see, here's the thing about TVD early in the season. They were allowing TVD to change the plays at the line. And I think that we're going to have to get somebody who can do that as well. But I also liked Emory Williams. Either way, it's going to be a competition of luck. Somebody's going to develop or somebody's going to be good. But our guess is good as yours. But I just feel like we got to put our faith in all three. Because honestly, at the end of the day, one thing that we see the difference between UM and other programs that even have less talent, competent coaching. One thing I can say about Louisville, extremely well coached. And I just think at the end of the day, if you can't even limit to make a quarterback better, then what are we really talking about? It don't really matter. Just get the recruit and we can complain about it. But that's all I got on that, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, and to throw one more monkey wrench in there, if Ja'Cory Brown throws for like 300, runs for like 150, then we're gonna really be. So yeah, this could get really crazy. But let us know what you think. I'm against. I'm against the transfer portal quarterback plug and play. I think we should develop the talent that we have, but I understand why, you want the sexy name and you want to play to Mario's strength, which is,
I want to do all three. I think ultimately you're right. If we don't develop, we'll never be elite. But I got to hit the transfer portal and I got to recruit and I got to develop because I really don't know which one's going to hit because my coach and my coaching staff, by default, is incompetent. So I don't know what's going to hit. So I got to bet on all the casinos. Hopefully we hit, though.
For sure.
Okay, we're going to see what we got.
Like I said, go ahead and hit the comments. Let us know what you think, how you feel. If you got a read on a quarterback that you think would be successful with us, or if I persuaded you a little bit to be like, let's roll the dice with Emory or Ja'Cory.
Oh no, they got the fan base. Them boys want to transfer for the bat. That's all they want. Want something sexy. Let me get sexy. I want that. Bro, they all salivate. Every video is on the transfer portal.
Every video. They got the Vegas odds. They got all types of stuff.
Yeah.
This is like,
we only gonna do some shit. We'll wait a couple of weeks, see who we gonna get, and then we'll do it after everything is in. Well, I'm good on that.
Yeah, but go ahead, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell your bow-legged auntie, and her bow-legged friends. to go ahead and holler at
Boys,
the boys. But this your dogs from the bottom of the map.
from the bottom of the map.
We gone.
We gone.